All right, today we said we're going to talk about the Khuffs. So, wiping the Khuffs is a matter related to wudu. It's like a subdivision or a subdivision or subcategory of or a digression in the chapter of wudu because it's related in particular to the feet. And it's only pertaining to wudu. It doesn't pertain to ghusl, and it doesn't pertain to removing najasa. So, what is a person's obligation in wudu? His obligation is to wash his feet, including his ankles, unless the conditions of the khuf were satisfied. If the conditions of the khuf were satisfied, then he has the option to wipe his khufs and not wash his feet. So if those conditions are not satisfied, one has to wash his feet. And washing your feet is better than wiping the khufs. Uh, but it might be obligatory on you to wipe your khufs, like if the time is too tight and the conditions of your wiping the khuf are satisfied and you need to get your prayer started before it gets too late so that you don't commit a sin, then you're going to wipe on your khufs. It's going to be obligatory on you if that's going to be your way to not pray late. Then you're going to wipe on your khufs and pray like that. But otherwise, washing the feet is better than wiping the khufs. And you don't need a reason to wipe the khufs. It's just valid. It's permissible if you fulfill the conditions, male or female. So the conditions of the khuf are being pure. That's one. Being pure, not najis. So it cannot be untanned skin. And it cannot be dog skin or pig skin. Do we talk about tanning skin? Okay, now you might wonder, how do I know if the skin of my shoes, which is the leather, how do I know that the leather of my shoes is tanned or it's not dog skin or pig skin? So the answer is it's permissible for you, if you're doubting about that, to assume that it is pure and tanned and that it's not dog skin or pig skin. That's permissible. You don't have to investigate to make sure it's not dog skin or pig skin or to make sure that it is tan. That's going to be your wallet, a leather jacket, maybe you have leather seats in your car, for example, or the like. All kinds of things that have leather. Belt, for example. And also, another condition is that this khuf is durable. Durable means that it's tough enough to withstand constant walking without tearing. So that's going to exclude a sock right there. And also has to be water resistant. That's going to exclude a sock too. But it's possible that there are some water resistant socks out there. Like if someone has socks made of scuba gear, or whatever is the material they use for scuba diving. Um, but being water resistant still itself is not sufficient. It has to also be durable. Uh, and not only that, it can withstand constant walking without tearing. Also, you can walk in it. You also can walk in it. So maybe it can withstand walking without tearing, but it still might be in such a way that you can't walk in it. Because we're saying, like, maybe you're not going to be able to walk over sticks and twigs and rocks. You're not going to be able to do that in socks. You need something to pad your feet, some amount of sole on the bottom or some amount of thickness so that you can even walk in it. That's a condition for the khuf. So the khuf has to be something that you can walk in it in the first place, and that you can walk in it um, consistently without it tearing, and it's water resistant. So all of these descriptions I'm giving you exclude the sock. What's a scenario or an example to give someone a picture? Like a traveler who descends or dismounts from his animal or dismounts his animal, and he goes back and forth to fulfill his errands, like collecting firewood and pitching a tent. So, like this, you're not going to be able to do that barefoot or just with socks on. In Imam Ahmed's madhab, you can wipe on the socks if you fulfill the conditions according to him. But I don't advise you to go this way. One might be curious how. If you want, don't go that way. Don't take this way. And also, another condition is they must be worn after a complete wudu. They must be worn after a complete wudu. This means if you made wudu and you washed one foot and then put the khuf on, then you wash the other foot and then put the khuf on, it's not valid for you to wipe on these khufs now. Why? Because you didn't put both of them on after a complete wudu. When we say they have to be worn after a complete wudu, means both of them. But in the scenario I just now gave you, only one of them was put on after a complete wudu. The other one was put on before a complete wudu because you still have to wash your other foot. So what would you have to do then? So this is a riddle here. Uh, One might ask a learner this question, see if he can figure out the answer. Let me repeat. We are saying it's a condition to be able to wipe on your khufs that you wore both of them after a complete wudu. And therefore, according to that, if a person washed his foot and then put on the khuf, and then washed his other foot and then put on the khuf, he won't be able to, it won't be valid for him to wipe on his khufs because he didn't put them both on after a complete wudu. So in this case, what does the person have to do to be able to wipe on his khufs? Do you know the answer? Yes. Wudu has to be done completely. Huh? For wiping on the khufs. I'll repeat. So the rule is, according to the Shafi'i school, in order to wipe on the khufs, you have to wear both of them after a complete wudu. Okay, period. That's done. That's the rule. Now let's take a scenario. What if a person made wudu until he got down to his foot, and he washed his foot, and then he put his khuff on. And then he washed his other foot, and then he put his second khuff on. We are saying, according to this rule, he's not. It's not valid for him to wipe on his khuffs because he didn't wear both of them after a complete wudu. So what would he have to do to be able to wipe on his khuffs in this scenario? Which khuff? Not both of them. He doesn't have to do his feet over. He washed his feet. The washing of his feet is valid. So that doesn't have to be done. Why he doesn't have to take off both of them? Because all he has to do is take off one of them, which is the first one, and then put it back on. All he has to do is take it off and then put it back on. Yes. Yes. Correct. Yes. Because when he washed the second foot, now his wudu is valid. So when he put on the second khuf, that one got put on after a complete wudu. So all that remains for him now is to take off the first one and put it back on. And now he will have put both of them on after a complete wudu. And another condition is that the khufs cover the amount of the foot that's obligated to wash. That means part of the ankles too, not part. That means the ankles too. The foot and the ankles, they need to be covered by the khuf. But don't take a misunderstanding from that. When we say they have to be covered by the khuf, that doesn't mean that your khuf has to be sealed. It might still be open. What if someone had some Tims on and they just weren't tied and they were open? That's valid. As long as what's there covers his ankles. It's not obligatory to actually seal it though. They have to both be worn after a complete wudu. So you got everything. We said it has to be pure, has to be durable, so you can walk in it and they don't tear, and water resistant, and worn after a complete wudu, and covers all of the foot that has to be washed. So you got everything. Now the scholars they actually mentioned a beneficial thing, which is that the khuf is the opposite. The judgment, the rule of the khuf is the opposite of the rule of covering the awrah. The rule of the khuf, of wearing the khuf, is the opposite of the rule of covering the awrah. Meaning, when you cover your awrah, what's the rule there? The rule is that you need to cover in such a way that your awrah cannot be seen from the top or from the sides, although it could be open from underneath, like if you had on the izar. Could be open from underneath, but needs to be sealed from the top, like the izar is wrapped around your waist. Needs to be sealed from the top, but could be open from underneath, and it needs to hide the skin and hair color. The khuf is opposite of this. Is the reverse. Is reverse of this. Because the rule for the khuf is it needs to be sealed from the bottom, even if it's open from the top. It needs to be sealed from the bottom and the sides, even if it's open from the top. And it's not a condition that it hides the skin and hair color, meaning your khufs could be transparent. That's valid. But whatever you use to cover your outer can't be transparent. That's not valid. So the khufs, they need to be sealed from the bottom and the sides, because bottom is your soul, and the sides, but they could be open from the top. While your aura, what you use to cover your aura, has to uh, cover from the top and the sides, but it could be open from the bottom. So basically, it's like imagine if you were wearing an izar and some rain boots. Izar is wrapped around your waist. That's how it's sealed from the top, and it's open from the bottom because it's just a cloth wrapped around you. And your rain boots, those rubber boots, they're gonna be open from the top, but they're sealing your the bottom of your feet and the sides. Is that clear? And add to that, the aura, what you use to cover it, has to hide the skin and hair color, but the khuf does not have to hide the skin and hair color. Now, if you fulfilled all these conditions for the khuf, then you can wipe on your khufs instead of washing your feet. That means you have a wet hand, and with your wet hand, you do what's called wiping over the top of the khuf, not the bottom. Imam Ali said, had the religion been by opinion, then we would have wiped the bottom of the khuf instead of the top. However, I saw the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wiping the top. Now, yeah, and when you wipe, it's better to spread your fingers and leave lines. Now, how long can you wipe? If you're a resident, you can wipe for a day and a night. And if you're a traveler, you can wipe for 3 days and nights. 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and nights. But there's a question. When does the time actually start? The time starts after you finish breaking your wudu. When you finish breaking your wudu, that's when the time starts. Meaning, the time doesn't start from when you put the khuffs on. No. And the time doesn't start from when you wipe on the khuffs. The time, yani your 24 hours or your 72 hours starts. The clock starts ticking when you finish breaking your wudu. So, for example, let's say you made wudu for Fajr. You washed your feet, you woke up yani in the morning, and you made wudu to pray Fajr prayer. And you washed your feet, and you put your khufs on. Okay, whether your khufs are on or not on right now doesn't even matter. Because you washed your feet, and you have wudu. Khufs on, khufs off, you can pray. But you put your khufs on at Fajr time. And then Dhuhr time came in. And Dhuhr time came in, then you broke your wudu. Went to the bathroom. So then you wiped your Khuffs. Then you wiped your Khuffs. So when did the time start? The time started when you finished breaking your wudu, when you finished going to the bathroom, not when you put on your Khuffs, and not when you wiped your Khuffs. Could have wiped your Khuffs an hour after that, 2 hours after that. Just because you broke your wudu doesn't mean you wiped your Khuffs immediately. So the time doesn't start by putting on the Khuffs, and the time doesn't start by wiping the Khuffs. The time starts by breaking the wudu. Then you got, from that time you broke your wudu, if you were a resident, 24 hours. And if you were a traveler, 72 hours. And you need to know what invalidates wiping the hoofs. What invalidates wiping the hoofs? That includes if they rip. If they rip or get a tear, then even, or just one of them, then you can't wipe on these hoofs anymore. And what we mean here is that it exposed what's underneath. You can see your foot underneath. Not saying it just sustained some wear and tear, got some scuff marks and stuff. No, we're saying actually it got breached. You got a hole in it now, or it tore, or seams came out. Like what happens with those cheap ones. I haven't bought those in 20 years. They don't last for a week. Yeah, yeah, those black ones. They make a fortune off those. Inshallah. Uh, then now the wiping becomes invalidated. Or if the time runs out, then the wiping is invalidated. Or if you became having to take a ghusl, then the wiping is invalidated. Like you had your khufs on and then you slept with your khufs on, then you had wet dream. Now you need to take a ghusl. Then the wiping on the khufs becomes invalidated. Or if you took one of them off, or even if someone took it off of you, then in all those cases, wiping the khufs becomes invalid. So to take even one of them off, we mean after breaking the wudu. After breaking the wudu, to take even one of them off, or if they rip, or if the time runs out, or if you have to take a ghusl. That's four things. Then it will not be valid to wipe the khufs. But except for the case of the ghusl, if the only thing is you have to wash your feet, then you can just wash your feet and put on some valid khufs. If that's the only thing you have to wash. Meaning, when the khuf runs out, or when the khuf, wiping the khuf becomes invalid, that doesn't mean that all of your wudu becomes invalid. If you had wudu by your khufs and then the khufs became invalid, then you just need to wash your feet only. And then you can put on some fresh khufs, or the same ones if they're still valid. And you have a new time. Yeah, yes. Yani, if you had wudu by your khufs, you understand what I mean by you had wudu by your khufs? Yes. So you did have wudu. You washed your face, washed your arms, wiped your head, but wiped your khufs after you broke your wudu and you kept the order. then you have wudu. But then your khuffs ran out, for example. Then all you have to do is take them off, wash your feet, and put them back on. Or one of your khuffs tore, or you took one of them off, or both of them. Then you have to wash your feet and you can put them back on. Or wash your feet and then put on valid khuffs that's not torn. Uh, so that's what we have for the khuff. Any question? And when it comes to washing the feet, a person has to go past his ankles, even a little bit, even as much as a fingernail past his ankles. No, now we're done with the khuffs. Now back to standard wudu procedures. If he were washing his feet, he has to go past his ankles. He must go beyond the ankles even a little bit. Heck is that? And by this, we have covered all the six integrals of wudu.